Some people, Madam President, like my younger cousin Matthew, would argue that we are already in the holiday season. It starts right after Halloween. I would like to join my fellow senators in saying thank you to the Crisis Center who pinned us with their white ribbons this morning as part of their White Ribbon campaign, to, which is a campaign um, in support of men promoting or discouraging violence against women and children. And we are proud, as a woman, I'm proud to join the men and to support this very noble mission. Now on to business, Madam President. This legislation represents a fulfillment of an international commitment made by the previous administration to implement the global corporate minimum tax. Madam President, they keep repeating that it was brought in, or it was a commitment made by the previous administration. And they've praised this obligation as strengthening our reputation and bringing in millions of revenue. And I think Senator Pickstock concluded by saying that this is a matter of national interest. But Madam President, they ain't even say thank you yet. They didn't say thank you. We made the commitment. We made the commitment. We made the commitment.
Thank you for nothing. Thank you for not delivering.
We made the commitment. Although this bill represents a necessary obligation, we must proceed with caution, and might I suggest, Madam President, with a proactive, positive campaign aimed firstly at ensuring that the marketplace understands the issues and the rationale for this action. And secondly, a campaign to deal with industry professionals and wealth management associate, lawyers and accountants and other stakeholders to ensure that they understand the technical aspects of this bill, its obligations, its objectives, the regulations, and the practical implementation requirements, as it could potentially adversely impact our financial services sector. Our financial services industry accounts for approximately 15% of our GDP. It is the second largest contributor to our economy following tourism. The intention behind the Globe Model Rules, as they are called, is to curb tax base erosion and profit sharing and profit shifting in the OECD. But there are several critical drawbacks that we must consider. Because of our reliance on financial services, we are more vulnerable to the economic downturns if these multinational enterprises relocate due to the increased tax burdens. Implementing the Globe Model Rule requires significant administrative resources and expertise. Have we developed these expertise in country? Is this an area where we're going to have to issue countless work permits? It's our understanding that the Bahamian-led audit department and technical legal expertise in the Department of Inland Revenue has been decimated and replaced by expatriates. Will this be allowed to continue, or is the government proactively recruiting the necessary expertise ahead of the implementation and the enforce date of this legislation? The passing of this legislation could lead to unintended consequences, such as the relocation of multinational businesses to jurisdictions that are not subject to these rules, thereby shifting rather than eliminating tax base erosion. Have our competitors implemented these rules? And if so, has this legislation and the more controversial clauses that I will touch on in a moment, has it been benchmarked against similar legislation in other jurisdictions? This legislation raises a few questions. The very first section of this act, which has yet to be passed, deems that it becomes effective the 1st of January 2024. That's 11 months ago. The presumption against retroactive legislation is a well-established principle in common law, and it's aimed at ensuring legal certainty and protecting individuals and companies' ability to plan their conduct based on existing legal framework. Madam President, I've spoken in this place about the importance of certainty. Certainty means stability, and it is necessary to the development of this country. This bill also speaks about providing information contrary to the Data Protection and Privacy of Personal Information Act. What are the protections in place under that? What about the protections that are in place under that legislation? Are there similar requirements for the persons under this act to secure information? This legislation also erodes the precepts of bank secrecy and attorney-client privilege. These rights were once absolute and are worth protecting vehemently. Banker-customer confidentiality is a cornerstone of trust between clients and financial institutions. Similarly, confidentiality is crucial for clients to freely share all relevant information with their attorneys, enabling them to receive comprehensive and effective legal advice. The Honorable Attorney General spoke about Barbados' implementation of the Globe Rules. And interestingly, in their Income Tax Act, there is a procedure to determine whether privilege applies, rather than the blanket disregard for privilege contained in our bill. A loss of trust in our financial services, which includes the provision of legal services, can damage our financial services and create a shift towards alternative, less regulated financial systems. Remember, this is our second most important industry. And we ought not to ignore the extraordinary powers being granted to the financial secretary. The powers under this bill are unprecedented. You can't ask for an explanation of his position until after you have complied with their possibly unlawful and excessive request. But this unprecedented power is particularly unnerving when the financial secretary's role is to be the technical advisor to the Minister of Finance and a supervisor to all agencies under the Ministry of Finance. The collection of government revenue is the sole responsibility of the Department of Inland Revenue, and it's the Department of Inland Revenue that should have the responsibility for the administration of the domestic minimum top-up tax. To me, Madam President, the risks of this legislation further underscores the need to diversify our economy. Our economy needs to grow, and the PLP has not done that despite their promises to do so. And these are promises that are more than likely going to remain unkept. Airlines and hotels and foreign have benefited from this administration more than we have. The PLP has increased both the cost of living and the cost of doing business on the backs of Bahamians. We would like to travel on private jets and eat steak in exotic restaurants too. But there's so little left in our wallets to do that. Despite their promises to raise people, they have placed a heavier burden on us. What kind of government makes medicine more expensive? The average Bahamian, however, continues to suffer to make ends meet. Based on the recent UB study indicating that the average middle-class family needs over $10,000 per month to avoid slipping underwater, this startling statistic must be the Bahamian government's primary focus, even as we manage other risks to our macro environment. The focus must be on making day-to-day existence better for Bahamians. But just as they have no clue on how to fight crime, they have no clue on how to grow our economy and reduce the cost of living. But don't worry, Madam President. 2026, right, or as we understand it, maybe 2025, right, is just around the corner.
Right. Hope is on the horizon.
To make our reality even worse, Madam President, The IMF has lowered its forecast for growth of our GDP. Sluggish growth will not bring us the new day we were promised back in 2021. Sluggish growth will not fulfill the promises in the blueprint for pain. Sluggish growth and this current administration is a burden for all of us. The dream of owning a home and family vacations and fulfilling Christmas wishes gets pushed even further away. We must diversify our economy so that we can absorb any adverse consequences that may come along with the continued erosion of our financial services industry. Madam President, diversifying the Bahamian economy beyond tourism and financial services is essential for creating a more resilient and sustainable economic landscape. Just last week on the Record, they talked about the evolution of Junkanoo. And one of the things that they discussed was the formalization and expansion of our Junkanoo industry, taking Junkanoo to the world. And Madam President, you know I like to say, 242 to the world. This country's strategic location, close to major markets in North America, provides a logistical advantage for the development of other industries. But first, we must improve the ease of doing business in the Bahamas. Efficiency in doing business has declined significantly in the last 3 years. Even as the harassment from government agencies and tax rate and fees have increased significantly. The frustrations of residents with dealing with so many agencies has become more acute with all the running around and lack of timely responses. The constant nitpicking on such matters as land evaluation and arm's length transactions that delay the timely closing of transactions, or the disruptive intrusion of armed tax collectors are particularly vexatious and frustrating. I can only shudder to think if that same modus operandi is going to be carried over to the administration of this new domestic minimum top-up tax. Enhancing these factors would make the Bahamas, improving the ease of business rather, would make the Bahamas more attractive for investment and thereby attracting foreign investment and creating high-quality jobs to support our economic diversification and resilience. In conclusion, Madam President, while implementing the global corporate minimum top-up tax is a necessary international commitment, it brings with it significant risks that could impact our financial services sector and overall economic stability. The potential adverse effects on our financial services industry, which is a crucial pillar of our economy, underscore the urgent need to diversify. We can become more resilient and a more resilient and sustainable economy. These efforts will not only attract foreign investment and create high quality and high skilled jobs, but also ensure that the Bahamas can withstand external economic shocks and continue to thrive. It is imperative that we elect an administration that is willing to take proactive steps to reduce the cost of living and doing business, and thereby enhancing our strategic advances and securing a prosperous future for us all. Madam President, I want to close by wishing the brothers and my Senate colleague of Omega Psi Phi fraternity a happy Founders Day. Yesterday, they celebrated their 113th Founders Day. And finally, I would like to publicly congratulate my Soras of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated on the momentous occasion of the 5th anniversary of the Charter of the State of the Bahamas. In 1976, 7 phenomenal women chartered the Theta Epsilon Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta here in the Bahamas. Since then, Zeta Bahamas has grown to 3 additional chapters, an undergraduate chapter at UB and graduate chapters in Grand Bahama and Eleuthera. This milestone is a testament to our unwavering dedication, hard work, and commitment to the principles of scholarship, service, sisterhood, and finer womanhood. Over the past 5 years, we have demonstrated a commitment to professional efficient, and innovative self-administration. We have continued to make strides in uplifting our communities, fostering educational excellence, and promoting social change. Madam President, through you, I want to say to my sorors that I am proud to stand with them, and here's to many more years of success and sisterhood. With that, Madam President, thank you, and may the God continue to bless our sunny clime.
No, I just making a point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator the Honorable Michela Barnett-Ellis, for your contribution. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Barry Griffin.
Madam President, I just stand on a point of order to correct the good senator. I didn't want to